This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, super practical.
I'm not telling people to have a mistress. I'm teaching you, learn the lesson from the people who have a mistress, because there's many business lessons that apply.
Pious.
There's a part in the book of Revelation where Jesus says, I want you either hot or cold. I'm spewing lukewarm churches out. And I think it's a good way to look at your list.
Romantic to his very core.
Once in a while, I'll give my girl a present, like a Snickers bar or something.
And totes tender.
If someone asks you to walk on eggshells, smash the eggshells and let the chips fall wherever they may.
Adored by feminists everywhere.
It takes a strong woman to admit when she's wrong.
Not a judgmental bone in his entire body.
I look at all the free information people give just on Facebook and I go, what a bunch of time hose.
Has a PhD in armchair philosophy.
In the land of dumbasses, the smartass is king.
You'll never meet a more sensitive guy.
If you really care about people, you shame the hell out of them. This is Ben Settle, the bensettle.com podcast. This is part 2 of a 4-part Mount Rushmore, we'll call it Mount Rushmore, elBenbo's Mount Rushmore series. This is an idea I completely ripped off from Brian Kurtz, the great Brian Kurtz. He had this great analogy of his Mount Rushmore of copywriters or his Mount Rushmore of favorite marketers and that sort of thing. So those are like the 4 people that he would look up to as being the best at that certain thing. I thought, okay, what's my Mount Rushmore? And we did a whole podcast on this, Jonathan. If you remember last year, it was about the 4 people on my Mount Rushmore. And I thought these guys deserve more than just, not only do they deserve it, but I think I want everyone to know about them. Like genuinely just want everyone to know about these 4 people and buy all their stuff that they can, because it's just going to make them money if they do. And they apply it, of course. And I thought they each need their own episode dedicated to them. So last week we did Matt Fury, the great Matt Fury. And I precede every single one of these 4 people with the great. And so it is. Once in a while, Jonathan, I want to fanboy out, okay? And this is my chance to do it, all right? I haven't been able to fanboy out in a very long time since I was like really new to this stuff. And you don't ever want to lose that fanboy side though when you're really into something. You don't, because that's what got you into it in the first place. That's what first inspired you. And we all should be trying to get better at what we do, especially people who think they know it all. They really need the inspiration. You got to find out what is it that got you going in the first place, what people did. Well, these are my 4 people. These are my 4 people in my Mount Rushmore. I'm not going into things they teach in their paid courses, or at least I'm trying my best not to. Once in a while, something might slip out just because of my subconscious. It's there. My apologies if that happens to any of these 4 gentlemen. But, mostly this is just stuff they've taught. Either I've observed them doing or they've taught publicly, or maybe something I've seen them even teaching like a sales letter or something, because there's much to learn from all these guys. So one of the most important things I learned from the great Gary Bencivenga, there you go, Jonathan, the great, I can't help it. The great Gary Bencivenga is, and this isn't something like I don't think he verbally ever said, at least not that I heard, but it's the byproduct of just going through what he taught. And that is the psychological side of persuasion, of selling in print, especially of writing sales letters, whether online, offline, whatever, is more important than the quote writing side, unquote. A lot of people, especially now, you see, especially that on Facebook, right? Everyone's now a copywriting teacher. Everybody,
yes.
Everyone's an A-list copywriter. These are people who haven't even written for a client ever in their life. Now I'm an A-lister. That unfortunately that terminology unfortunately got kind of toned down.
Your fault, and
it really did. It used to mean something, right? Because there are certain A-list copywriters out there, guys and girls who work for the top companies, and they're out there regularly competing A/B tests against the best people out there. So like Gary Bencivenga, for example, or, the David Deutsches out there, like him, Paris Lampropoulos, these guys, Kim Krauss, Schwalmy. I know I always say her name, Schwalmy. She's one of my favorites. She's just a great copywriter. Like any way you look at it, A-list, right? But then you have people out there who just started writing copy, but they have a nice Facebook following. Suddenly they think they're the best copywriter in the world when they're really just writing to people already predisposed to buying from them, which is more a marketing side, I would think, than a copywriting side, which is fine, by the way. I'm not even saying that's bad, but let's not look to them as like pargons of copywriting knowledge or whatever. Guy like Gary Bencivenga is. I learned so much about the psychology of it from him that I'd never seen anywhere else. And I had bought a lot of products from a lot of different people, and I'd never really seen the psychological side explained the way he can. And he does it in his site at marketingbullets.com, but also in his farewell seminar, which I think everyone should have. If you can't afford it right now, just start saving up for it, because it's if you're going to be serious about copywriting, in my opinion, it doesn't get any better than that. And so that's the psychological side. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on in this episode. But the next thing he taught, and like he's the king of what I'm about to say here, Jonathan. He's the reason why everyone even uses this word. Everyone throws it around like they invented it, but he's really the guy who took it and tested it over and over and over. I think he did 40 years of testing and over $1 billion of tests, right? So he's seen this over and over and over. And that is the idea of putting proof in everything, proving everything you say. Everything you say. See, a lot of people just say stuff and assume people are going to believe it, not realizing how skeptical everybody is, and rightfully so. Everyone's been lied to by like everybody, especially in the last 10, 20 years. It's like their favorite politician has lied to them. Their mortgage broker probably lied to them. Their doctors have probably lied to them. Their spouses have probably lied to them in some unfortunate cases. Everyone's getting lied about. Their favorite gurus have lied to them. Everyone's getting lied to. Everyone's getting screwed over. It's like we're this narcissistic society. And so proof is more important than ever. I mean, it was important before, but now it's really important. And this is why this idea of like working proof and credibility in some way into like every sentence you possibly can. It's funny because if you go back to Eugene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising, he talks a lot about this too, and even shows you examples like from his TV ad, why TV owners, what's that subject line after, this subject line, the sale, I forget the headline was, why don't TV owners know these facts? And then it was very specifically structured for proof and believability. And he did the same for selling spark plugs. Highly recommend, by the way, getting Breakthrough Advertising, which you can get through, I believe, Brian, the great, forget saying the great Brian Kurtz has the rights to sell it. BrianKurtz.me. Highly recommend it. But, Gary Bencivenga is the one who really drummed it into my head, at least. And now I didn't really understand its importance. And he shows you like 13 or 14 different ways to prove stuff in his course. And it's very eye-opening. And it's funny because some of this stuff you would think it's not very powerful stuff, but it's extremely powerful. And it's always the stuff that everyone thinks isn't sexy that, in my experience, it's actually the best. So that's another thing. And then kind of related to that, this idea that believability is more important than big claims, right? This is like Gary Bencivenga said in his free stuff, marry your proof with your claim in the headline, join them together, and you'll have a much higher response almost every time. Well, this is true with a lot of stuff. So he did this. I don't know if you ever saw, Jonathan, I don't know if you ever used to read MakePeaceTotalPackage.com. It's Clayton Makepeace's site. Did you ever read that site? Oh, no, man. Oh, man. It's still up there. He hasn't really done much with it in years. I think he's just focusing on actually doing the copywriting stuff. But there's a lot of stuff up there still. Like he has some of the best articles you'll ever read about copywriting. He used to, back in the early days when I was just getting started, it's like, holy crap, this is, we should be paying for this stuff. That's how good it is. And he did he interviewed Gary Bencivenga for that. It was a 2-part interview. I highly recommend everyone go to Make Peace Total Package and find that interview, print it out. The one he did with Gary Bencivenga especially. He did other interviews with really good copywriters too, like Caroline Anglade Cole and Paris Lampropoulos. I have all these printed out. I read them like once a year. I like to go through them again. But read those, but especially read the Gary Bencivenga one. He says something in it that to me, when I used to do client work, I used to have to constantly battle them to just do these little things. And this is one of those things about putting believability being more important than the power of a claim. And in that interview, again, you can get this for free on MakePeaceTotalPackage.com. He talks about when he was working, he's working with this agency, or I guess he was one of the partners in an agency. And they were selling this thing, a space ad for selling information to people who are into investing in silver. And the guy who wrote the headline was why the price of silver may rise steeply. That was the headline. Now, I guarantee you, Jonathan, if you went to 9 out of 10 people on Facebook who think they're copywriting experts, they'd say, it's weak. Why the price of silver may rise steeply. One word, the word may. Gary Bencivenga said, at the time he thought, this doesn't seem that powerful. Why don't we say will? Why don't we be forthright about this? Why don't we back up our claim? So they tested it because they were actually true testers. They weren't just people online who pretend to be testers. They actually tested with money. It actually cost money back then. And they found out that will rise steeply got killed by may rise steeply. It wasn't even close. I don't remember what the percentage was. It was a lot. It may have been like 200% or so. It was a lot. And it was one word difference. That was it. May, because which one was more believable, especially to a skeptical silver investor, and that lesson stood with me, has stuck with me all this time. I really think that you're much better off making things one believable claim is worth 100 half believed ones. Right. And so that is a huge lesson that I learned from Gary Bencivenga, amongst many others. He also was a master. And if you ever get his farewell seminar course, you'll get to see a lot of his examples. But he was the master at like merging information with persuasion in a sales letter. In fact, he was the one that he didn't invent the Magalog. I believe Jim Rutz did, but he really ran with it. And he started making his stuff look very informational. And to the point where he was saying he was giving away like 50%. 50% of it would be giving away good information and 50% sales pitch. With emails, I don't do it nearly that much, Jonathan. I think emails are I think they're just different. They're different, the different thing. I sell a lot, but that's okay. But if you do it right, it's okay. But the point is in a direct mail pitch to someone's mailbox where they're getting 100 other direct mail pitches. But if you can ever get your hands on any of his ads, and there is a site called swipe.co or something like that. I don't know. I think you probably have seen this website. It's like swipe.co or something. It's some weird URL where some people have put together swipe files. Legally or illegally, I don't know, Jonathan, so I'm not necessarily endorsing the site. But I'm just saying, like, you can see some of these ads up there. Or you can just Google. For example, he has an ad, do you make these mistakes in job interviews? This is a Gary Bencivenga space ad. And you read this, and it feels like you're reading an actual article. It's very good stuff. So, but he was really good at that. And if you can read his ads and see his ads, and you'll see it for yourself. You don't even need me to tell you. In fact, if you go to Google and you type in Gary Bencivenga farewell course or farewell DVDs, you'll see his monster 80-page sales letter that sells us. 80 pages. Like, who's going to read all that, Jonathan? Who's going to read 80 pages? I don't know, man. I didn't know he read it. I copied it out by hand many years ago. It's it was a huge education. And, he was the master at that. And you would read this thing and he's actually giving you good information throughout the sales letter, but also selling it. And that is an art and a craft, and that is a science. I don't know if it's a science, but it's definitely an art. And not a lot of people have it. And if you can learn it, and you can learn it by just observation, if nothing else, it's going to make your sales letters, going to make your emails better. It'll make your podcast better, Jonathan.
Yes.
In fact, if anything, I don't sell enough on this podcast. Let's be honest. I
agree.
That's my downfall, but should be using more sales. But that's another thing. Probably the single most valuable thing I learned from Gary Bencivenga, and I cannot reveal what it is. I can just tell you what it is, but I cannot reveal what it is because it's so valuable. And it bothers me when people freely talk about this stuff and they don't make people have to pay the $5,000 to learn this, even though it's something you can put on a sheet of paper. Literally, in fact, I have it printed out right in front of me. I have it always in front of me. And it's the Bencivenga persuasion equation, which he believe he trademarked the term. And it's worth getting his $5,000 course just for this, in my opinion, in my humble, but not only humble opinion, but my accurate opinion, Jonathan, as you're used to getting from me.
That's right.
The persuasion equation is it. It not only it's the psychology of the sale, and it's like closing the 5 doors of escape that your prospect has. There's 5 doors where your prospect is looking to escape when they're reading whether it be a sales letter, email, whatever else. They're looking to get rid of you. They're looking for an excuse to stop reading at any time. His persuasion equation makes it so you cannot escape. If you're a good targeted prospect for what he's selling, you just can't not. Now you can try, you don't have to buy necessarily, but you're not going to just readily, toss out the piece of mail or whatever you're reading or click away from the site. If you're doing this, they're not going to do that to you. They're going to have to at least pay attention to you. And again, you can fit it on this equation, you fit it on a piece of paper. And I've listened to his course almost 30 times. I think 29 times or something. And I still, every time I listen to that part, I still lean in and I still mentally take notes and sometimes even jot notes down to mail to myself, because it's like one of these things that if you learn it and then learn it at a deep, deep level, which you can only get by repetition and application, I'm telling you, you're going to write sales letters that people simply cannot easily either throw out if it's physical or click away from, if they're a good prospect for it. Now, if they're not a good prospect for it, it doesn't really matter anyway. But if they're a good prospect for it, Jonathan, you've seen many of my sales letters over the last 10 years, and I'd use it in all of them.
Yeah.
There's one part I don't always use in it, but that's only because I can't even say why. It's something I mentioned in the last episode, actually. But anyone who goes through it know what I'm talking about. But I still use the spirit behind it, basically. Spirit of the law versus letter of the law. Okay, we'll just say that. Well worth getting that course for just that. If nothing else, just that. I don't know if you can get it directly at marketingbullets.com or not. That's his site. I don't know if he's updated that anytime recently, but there's a lot of good articles on there. I mean, just print them all out, read them at least 10 times, and you will be a much, much better copywriter. I guarantee it. But that's marketing. Now, where you get his course, I think you just have to go to Google and type in Gary Bencivenga farewell DVDs, and it'll come up. And not only should you buy the DVDs, in my opinion, but you should print out the 80-page letter and study it, read it 10 times. It's like, I know that's a lot, 80 pages, right? That's like you're reading an 800-page book. But trust me, it doesn't feel like 80 pages. In fact, it's big font and everything. It's not. If it was regular size font, it probably wouldn't be nearly that big. But also, I highly recommend writing it out by hand. And I think there's no way you're not going to become a significantly better copywriter, in my experience, if you do that. One more thing I want to say about Gary Bencivenga, Jonathan, because he's been very generous to me in a way that I'll talk about in a future podcast, way above and beyond generosity, in my opinion. And I asked him, I go, is there like a cause that you believe in? Because he's made me so much money. I mean, he really has. Gary Bencivenga, between the last two guys, especially Matt Fury and Gary Bencivenga, these guys, I mean, whatever comfortable lifestyle I have, I put it firmly at their feet. And I said, is there something that I can donate to? I've already bought your course. Like, I'd give him more money if he was selling more stuff. Take my money. Like the guy in the Futurama thing, he's holding up the money. Take my money. So I said, is there something that, like a cause that you support? Because he mentioned one in his course, actually. There's a cause. It's like a Catholic charity for people with mental disabilities and that sort of thing. And him and his wife are very, very involved in this specific one. And all the money goes just to helping the people. There's not a bunch of administration and overhead and all that. I.e., it's not the Red Cross. It's like something you can actually give money to, and it's going to the right spot. And so I'm going to give that a little plug here on the air. And if Gary Bencivenga has ever helped you in any way, or does in the future help you in any way, and you just feel like you want to help him, you want to give back in some way. And maybe you can't afford his $5,000 course, but maybe you have 10, 50, 20, 30 bucks sitting around, whatever, that you'd like to just donate to the cause. It's called the Mary Haven Center of Hope in Port Jefferson, New York. I don't have the URL off the top of my head, but if you Google Mary Haven, which is one word, Center of Hope, it's in Port Jefferson, New York. And, just they'll show you how to donate and all that. I highly recommend it, especially if he's done anything, if he's made your life better, and he has, whether you realize it or not, because he paved the way for all of us, Jonathan. Cannot recommend it enough. Cannot recommend Marketing Bullets enough. Cannot recommend his course enough. And cannot recommend shooting some money, even if it's just $5 or $10, whatever. If he's done anything to help you, if this episode has helped you in any way, just do us all a little favor and just, you don't have to tell it. Don't tell anybody you did it, by the way. I got to say something, Jonathan. I think it's very important that when you give money,
I'm sending you my receipt. All right.
If you can help it, try not to tell, because then it looks like virtue signaling or something. But just do it for your own soul. Okay. And I think that you'll feel better about learning from him, and so be it. So that's it for this time, Jonathan. Next week, I'm going to do another Mount Rushmore head. I'm not going to reveal the name because this person has been disparaged unfairly by many marketing gurus over the years. And I don't want people to prejudge it. And I'm talking about people who follow like the original crop of internet marketers. Okay. And if you like
the
follow
original
all those
crap.
Yeah. If the people who used to do the circle jerk of testimonials and all that, I'm not saying they all hate this guy, but a lot of them have badmouthed him. If you know about the internet marketing so-called syndicate, those guys did not like the guy I'm going to talk about next week. And I don't want him prejudged. I want him judged on the merits of what I'm about to tell you, because he's had as much of an impact as both Matt Fury and Gary Bencivenga have had. And I want everyone to buy his stuff too. So that'll be next week.
Oh man, I can't wait. So another Bencivenga.com podcast is in the can, back in your earbuds next time.
You've been listening to the Bencivenga.com podcast. to download yourself a free issue of Ben's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, which is going to show you 24 ways to write emails people eagerly read, click, and buy from, head on over to www.bensettle.com. Well, off you go. You know it makes sense.
This is the podcastfactory.com.